All right, guys, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. If you're someone who is seeking uncommon results, this podcast is for you. Success, happiness, and wisdom. What do these words mean to you? I think we can all agree that we'll probably all have slightly different definitions of each. In these podcasts, I get to dive deeply into conversations with some amazing innovators, influencers, and trendsetters that have had different versions of how they define the terms, yet have come out on the other side with amazing, uncommon results. At some point in their lives, they have decided to unshackle themselves from the norm and go beyond all boundaries. Well, welcome to another show of Beyond All Boundaries. I'm John Brett, your host. And again, Happy New Year to everybody. It is the new year. It is 2022. And I have Kevin Fink, my colleague, who's with Solid Rock Financial Group in my organization. Kevin, thanks for jumping on today.
You bet, Johnny. Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year to you too.
Thanks.
And today we just thought it would be a good idea to, dig into a little bit more about some of the aspects that Kevin and I work in, which is in the financial space and sector of overall wealth. The Beyond All Boundaries podcast, we bring in a lot of awesome guests, business owners, entrepreneurs, and share their wisdom and insights and their struggles. But as it being a new year and where economics is headed and all these changes and disruptions that we're having in the marketplace, I want to start sharing some of the things that we're seeing from a client perspective and things that I hope that you guys find value in. And one of the things that we wanted to talk today about is, we get often asked the question of, right, Kevin, where we park our money. Like, if I had this extra money, where should we park it? And what's interesting is that most people think about it they're going to get an answer from us from a rate of return perspective. And what's in the planning process that we talk a lot about, it's not the rate of return on your money that matters, it's where your money sits. And more importantly, what you can spend. Now, those of you that are listening to this might be like, what the heck's he talking about? And it's because of the traditional model has always been just looking at a rate of return, an average rate of return, and an accumulation model. But the reality is that there's so many key factors to where you can park capital and what it means for you other than the rate of return. A rate of return, when you look at the overall planning perspective, is actually just a small amount of importance. It's definitely important, but it's not the solve all be all that every typical financial advisor talks about. And so we get asked that question often. And so I thought that we would just spend 10, 15 minutes today just sharing some ideas and some thought processes for you to, when you're looking at making some capital decisions with excess capital, where you should position your money. Kevin, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but go ahead.
Yeah. As we were talking about it, I really was thinking about it from two perspectives, right? Most of the people that are listening to this podcast, they're already pretty successful in what they do. And to talk about rate of return, you guys know how to make rate of return. That's what you do every day. And this question of where do I park my money? Sometimes when your opportunities pay off, right? When you're doing something in your business and you have a significant cash event and now you're sitting on a bunch of cash, it's like, where do I put it until I'm ready to redeploy it again for another opportunity? That's what we're talking about. And this whole idea of rate of return is we get so hung up traditionally on rate of return. We think we always have to be maximizing the rate of return, even when the money is just sitting somewhere. So I like to think of it in terms of money at work and money at rest. And when the money is at rest, it doesn't need to be getting rate of return as much as it needs some other types of benefits, things like liquidity, use, control of the money. Can I put my hands on it without anybody asking me why I want to put my hands on it, right? And so the rate of return question is more about when you deploy it, when you put it to work, that's where your rate of return comes from. And when it's resting, I think some of the other types of benefits actually have more value. Yeah, rate of return would be nice, but it's like you said, John, it's not the be all end all as everybody's made it out to be.
And you make a good point, like money at rest, right? And what does that mean? And you talked about three huge elements: liquidity, use, and control. And when we talk to a lot of people, oftentimes what we're seeing is that people will position money in places to where they have no access, or it's very limited access, or there's all these rules and regulations around how I get my own capital. And so when we look at money at rest, we talk about money supplying benefits. What benefits are you getting per dollar, every dollar that you contribute to somewhere? Is it liquid? Do you have collateralization? Do you have protection? Do you have safe harbor rules? Do you have all these different things in place? Do you have tax favored strategies to it? All these different things that you're putting those dollars to, what benefits are you getting with those dollars? And to your point, money at rest sometimes is a very good thing, because of when you look for opportunity, when you look around, at least my perspective and opinion is, when you look around at wealthy people, they become wealthy because they've had access to capital and they've taken advantage of opportunity.
Yeah.
So really, opportunity is really what creates rates of return, in my opinion. For example, I had money at rest. 2020 hits. What happens in 2020 around March? COVID. What happens to the stock market? It goes significantly down, right? And so you have investment advisors saying, well, just put more. This is the time to put more in. Yeah, so you can increase your return. However, you had a whole bunch of money. If you didn't have money at rest, you had money going down with the ship and then trying to recapture the return that you just lost. However, had you had money sitting on the sidelines at rest with money supply and benefits that continue to compound and grow, and you can utilize it for other opportunities, when you have those types of opportunities, that's when you really start to exceed your rates of return, because not only are you in a safe position when the economic events are happening, when the downfall is happening, then you can take advantage of true opportunity on the descent and recapture all the gains on the way up.
Absolutely. And, we have a lot of clients in the real estate space, right? And thinking back to when was the last real estate crash? 2012, somewhere in there, right? Some of our clients that were utilizing our strategies, they had, just like you're talking about 2020 with the stock market, they had cash, they had access to their capital. And when those properties devalued 20, 30, 40%, they were able to step in, take advantage of that opportunity. And now, it looks pretty sweet. So yeah, the rate of return really does come from taking advantage of the opportunity, not so much where it was resting. And, that the benefits that we're talking about here, John, the most important one from this perspective, I believe, really is that idea of the control, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody asking me, why do I want to put my hands on my money? When the opportunity comes up, can I get a hold of my money without having to go through some long drawn out application process, or some 25-year-old kid at the bank who doesn't know much about anything, telling me whether or not I can access some money. That's not the ideal thing. And some of those other benefits that you mentioned, right? The tax nature. As we get further on down the line, what do we want our money to do for us? Now we really we have to start thinking about some of those other benefits, right? What's the tax nature? How's it going to be taxed now? How's it going to be taxed in the future? And so it's really a more complex conversation and equation than just, where can I get the highest rate of return for my money?
And Kevin, we often use the analogy of the garage, right? When we park our vehicles in the garage, we're doing that to protect the vehicle, not so much to furnish the garage. Yeah. And I think oftentimes we forget about that in times of uncertainty and in times of just good overall economic sense. It's okay to have some money idle, as long as you're utilizing it for those opportunities, right? To hedge inflation, to hedge all these things. But let's go back to the garage analogy for a minute. It's like you park your car in the garage to protect the car.
It's the safest place for the car. When you're not driving it.
And then when you get in the car and back out, that's when you go drive to work, you go do these things, and that's when you create your revenue and make your money. The same thing is it can be true for idle capital. If you look at money supply and benefits and what are you getting per dollar, right? Or what benefit are you getting for every dollar that you contribute? If it's in a safe position and you can access it, then when you go back into the money garage and borrow that money back out and use it for opportunity, that's when you drive and you can really create opportunities and utilize that lazy capital for some significant rates of return. Because, I'm sure everybody listening here knows somebody who is wealthy, or you are wealthy, right? And those that you maybe don't know very well, how do you know they're wealthy? You haven't necessarily looked at their bank statements, you haven't necessarily looked at their portfolio, but you just know because of the things that they're doing. It's because they've had access to capital to take advantage of a lot of opportunities throughout their life. Some turn out perfect and some don't. But the reality is having that money at rest and protected, right, to where it is compounding, but it's in a safe position and you can use it for those opportunities is really critical.
Yeah. And for those of you listening that haven't necessarily heard us talk about the whole car in the garage analogy before, let me just sort of set it up for you a little bit. My question would be, why do you have a car? Why do you have a vehicle? And of course, the answer is for transportation to get from point A to point B. And when you are done transporting, though, where do you put the vehicle? The safest place to put it is in the garage, because it's protected from weather and vandalism and theft and all those other things. It's safer than leaving it out on the street. So how does that apply to this whole idea of money? Well, the purpose of money is to transact, either for lifestyle or for investment. And so we don't have money just for the sake of having money. We got to do something with it. And when we are transacting, that's when we're looking for either, again, we're spending it in our lifestyle, or we're looking for rate of return through investment. The question becomes, where do we park the money? What's the best garage? Which garage gives us the most benefits along the lines of what we've been talking about all throughout this podcast? And you can use any financial vehicle as a garage. They don't all have the same benefits, though. And so that's where we start to look at really what are the benefits. Rate of return, yes, that's one benefit, but all these other things: liquidity, use, control, protection from creditors and lawsuits, tax consequences, all of those things factor in. And that really is how we help our clients understand what is the best garage, and how do we take most advantage of those opportunities when we can get our hands on our money.
Yeah, and it's just, it's funny though, because a lot of times that, people want this quick answer, and sometimes it depends, right? It can be, it depends on what the situation is that you have going on in your world right now too, is where you should position your asset, right? And it all comes down to the overall plan, because, our industry, I feel, has done a terrible job of just trying to sling product to solve a solution.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's been one bad financial product invented. It's whether that product fits a strategy or what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right. So the analogy, Kevin, that I love to use is, golf, right? So I'm going to send you the Masters, and now I'm going to put my money on you, and you have to pick one of the two options I'm going to give you. You can go to the Masters, use your current ability, and we're going to make the best clubs ever designed, or you can go and you can transform your body and use some other golfer's professional ability and use their current clubs. Which one do you want to use?
I'd much rather have Tiger's ability with my clubs than my ability with his.
Right. And so the point is, it's the swing is much more valuable than the club. And our industry has tried to wrap all these products and make them shining to make it be like this is the solve all be all. And what is it really trying to accomplish if it's not in the right strategy? And so we look at money supply and benefits. We look at where we park our capital, but it also comes into play of what is the overall strategy? What is the overall complexity of your plan and what you're trying to accomplish will also have a huge impact of what we're trying to accomplish, or what you're trying to accomplish. And so that question, oftentimes we don't necessarily answer it from a product standpoint. We answer it more of a depends on what do you have going on and what are you trying to accomplish with your overall swing and your overall financial goals.
I'm sorry to interrupt. How we're swinging our money is more important than the products we're swinging it with.
Yeah. And again, I think our industry, to its fault, has always just tried to sling product. It's like you go to hole number 9 and you got the club developer on the head of the club talking about, oh, if you put this club head on the ball, you're going to hit it 20 yards further. Then you go to hole number 11 and you got a guy talking about the grip. Right, it's constantly changing up this one club, and if you hit the ball 100 yards further, but you're 60 yards in the woods, it's not a better place to be in.
That's true. And I played golf with you, and you play a lot from the woods, so you should know about that, right?
No, you should know. So obviously it's not. And Kevin, I keep trying to buy these new clubs, thinking that's going to solve the problem, and it just gets worse.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it's just a matter of going back to the tee box and working on your financial swing. And I think, for 2022, there is a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of tax changes coming down the pike. There's a lot of just different things that we need to look at from an economic perspective. And how is your swing set up? Could be some really key conversations for you to have to see if it's going to read with what you want to have accomplished for your overall plan.
Absolutely.
And not just from a rate of return perspective. Again, the rate of return is a small component to everything else that you should be looking at from a retirement or planning perspective.
Well said, my friend.
So hopefully this gave you something to think about. Feel free to reach us out. My contact information is, you can go to noplanningfees.com or johndwyer.me, and we'd love to get in contact with you. So just feel free to reach out, and if you have any questions, we're here for you to answer any questions we have.
And if you happen to be listening to this on Spotify and you enjoy what we are talking about each week and the people that we're bringing on, we'd love to have you write a review for us on Spotify, and that would help us out a ton. So John, thanks, brother. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited about what 2022 is going to be for us, and I look forward to doing these on a regular basis.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for joining us.
All right, buddy.